Tesla is refreshed, the Tesla Model S and the Model X. And when I look at this new design, I'm not so sure if this is actually an improvement. I think they introduced some very, very static, very sharp designs specifically for the Model S. We're going to have a look at that. I'm going to let you know exactly what I'm talking about here. But they say that it will increase the high speed stability for specifically the Model S. Very interesting to see that. So we're going to have a look at this design here, compare it to the old one, and also the Model X, which gets maybe less tweaks specifically to the rear end. We're going to have a look at this in a minute. But first of all, let's check out what is new for the Tesla Model S and the Model X here from this article from Cars Group. So Model S and X get small tweaks and big price hikes. I'm sure those prices are going to come back down in about 2 weeks in the typical Tesla fashion. Customer will need to cough up an extra $5,000 to enjoy the upgrades, which are mostly under the skin. But we also have a new front bumper. You can see it right here, how sharp this is. And this corner right here, and in the lower section, all the way down here in this corner, if you look at the overall design, how fluid and curves everywhere in this design, and then you have this very, very sharp corner up here. I don't know. I think I prefer the old one. I'm going to show you what that looked like in a minute. So the new front bumper and some interior tweaks are the most obvious changes made. The Model S long range can now cover up to 410 miles, which is fantastic if that is actually the real world distance that it can actually go. We're starting to go to that, where it's starting to make sense to maybe if you go 400 miles, then you almost need to take a little bit of a break, a 20-minute break. So during that break, you can of course charge up your Tesla and continue your trip. So the Model S and the Model X currently accounts for less than 5% of Tesla's annual sales. I had no idea that they were that small of a percentage. But then when I think about it, I mean, how often do you see a Model S or a Model X compared to a Model 3 or a Model Y? I mean, the Y and the 3 are just everywhere, and you rarely these days, I feel, see specifically a Model X. Not that common to see that. So, and they've been updated one more time here. Now, they've been around since 2012 for the Model S. So they're really milking this model, and the Model X came out in 2015. And I understand why. Tesla still being a pretty young company, imagine what it would cost to create a brand new Model S and a Model X instead of just refreshing it and making some tweaks and still trying to keep it modern. And the thing about these designs, specifically the Model S, it has such a clean design with typical proportions it is a hatchback, for a hatchback like this, that it still looks good, even if it came out in 2012. If you look at the 2012 model, that one, if that was in production today, that would look dated. But the front end is completely new, and specifically the taillights, when they introduced the full LEDs, just makes it look so much more modern. So there's not much to distinguish the refresh Model S and the Model X from the outgoing versions. And these have been around for 13 and 10 years, the Model S and the Model X. Pretty crazy to think about, but they still look good in my opinion. So you have a newly designed front bumper, giving them a slightly more aggressive look. Whether or not that's an improvement is up to personal taste. I want to hear exactly what you think about these updates. Do you think the new one looks better than the old one? We're going to talk about that in a minute. The Model X, on the other hand, remains as porky as ever. It definitely has these bulky, it looks overweight with the proportions of the Model X. I've never been a fan of it, really. If you're gonna get a Model X, you definitely need to get the bigger wheels, because if you have the small wheels, it just looks like a massive volume sitting on some tiny wheels. So you definitely need to go with the bigger wheels. And you can get 22-inch wheels now for the Model X. That is a $5,500 option though, and the Model S can be configured with 19s or 21-inch wheels. Brand new design for both of these wheels. I do prefer the old plaid wheels that we had before this refresh, and this is the 21-inch wheels for the Model S is a $4,500 option. Now you also have an improved camera into the front bumper, while the headlights have been updated with new adaptive functions. Changes made to the exterior of the Model S Plaid also enhances its high-speed stability. So here we can see some photos, specifically the new wheel design. These look decent. I think they look a little bit too complex for me for the rest of the design of the body here. But you can see that it looks like we have some metallic, I don't know what's going on with the paint here. I know we have a new blue paint, but this looks to be black with some specks in here, looking very, very nice. These are the new plaid wheels. You can see that it's completely covered up. That is, I'm not sure if you can probably take off these panels here like you can on most Tesla wheels, but still I prefer the old wheels. It looks like we have a new wing here with a bit of an indent right here, an angle in the middle of the wing for the Model S, and you have this new front camera in the front bumper. New headlights as well, looking very clean, and this is what I'm talking about. If you look at this design, this still looks very fresh, even though it came out in 2012, but it's a completely brand new front fascia for the Model S since then, of course, and that is what makes it look so modern. Interior looks great as well. Love the new seats that we have with the plaid graphics integrated in the backrest. We also have some new ambient lighting here for both the Model S and the Model X. And we have the same yoke wheel, which is now an option. You can still get it with a proper wheel. Personally, I think I would go with a regular wheel. I'm not sure what option this is. Let's see. We have a Model S right here. We can go into the option. And this is a $1,000 option to get the yoke for the steering wheel. I would much rather just have a regular steering wheel, to be honest. But here we can also see the new blue, frost blue metallic, looking very, very clean. And we also have stealth gray, the diamond black. I'm sure that's the same black as we had before. But this blue with the new wheels, we got to put the correct wheels on here as well, the 21s. This looks pretty cool to me, very nice. But you can see this front corner here. This is way too sharp. I just want to have a little bit of a radius in this top corner, and it would be a great refresh. This is the only area I have some problems with when it comes to the refresh. Now, looking at the, I want to show you the rear seats here as well. We have, of course, armrest, 2 cup holders, a screen in the middle for entertainment in the back. You can see it more clearly right here. So it looks decent still, even though it's a very old model. So a new shade known as Frost Blue, that is a $2,500 option. That is the one I showed you right here, looking tight. Furthermore, a regular steering wheel is standard, while the yoke being offered on the Model X as a $1,000 option. You got new bushings and an updated suspension ride, which the car maker says is supposed to improve the ride quality. You also have better active noise cancellation, so it's probably going to be a very comfortable, very quiet ride, specifically on highways. Configurable ambient lighting has been added to the dashboard, door panels, and around the center console. And Tesla is proud that this is an animated ambient lighting when the EV starts up. Something that a lot of car companies have for a very long time, but now Tesla is just jumping on that train as well. So both these new models command a premium over the outgoing model. The Model X will be offered as long range or plaid, priced from $89,990 all the way up to $104,990. Both increases of $5,000 compared to previously. Similarly, the Model S is available as long range or plaid. I don't think we have the Plaid Plus anymore. That might come later, I'm not sure. But price is starting at $84,990 for the long range and almost $100,000 for the plaid. So here you can see the new Tesla Model X. It's still a very, very modern looking design, specifically with its Falcon doors. I think they're called, that open up like this. It looks very cool. Here you can see the new wheels as well. The new wheels for the X, I wish these were available on the Model S. These big 22-inch plaid wheels. Would be very cool to see this on the Model S as well. You can see some airflow right there. The rear end, I don't think there is any updates to the rear end of the Model X. We do have updates to the design of the Model S, but not to the Model X from what I can tell. The interior, you can get the yoke here as well for the Model X, of course. You have some new, I do believe these are new headlights, but the daytime lights looks to be exactly the same. I do like this because it's thicker here, going into thinner pieces, creating a bit of a dynamic movement. You can see that the lower section does not have the same static or sharp vibe that we have on the new Model S. So I think the front end bumper for the X actually looks better than the Model S. And here you can see the new wheels looking very, very nice. Nice design on the wheels. And in this red with the blacked out graphics that we have now since 2022, just looks pretty tight, even though the proportions, again, very bulky, very overweight looking proportions with the Model X. It just looks like if you have the Model 3, then you have a little bit more lifted Model Y, and if you lift the proportions even more, then you come out to the Model X like we have right here. So very cool updates. Let's jump into Photoshop here and have a look at what's new visually from a design standpoint with these new vehicles. So a refresh again and price hike again. But as I said, Tesla has a history of just going up and down with their prices. So I'm sure this is just an introductory price for the new Model S. You can see the difference here in the lower section. This does not look bad. It looks very aggressive, a lot more aggressive, this new front bumper that we have compared to the old one. But the old one to me feels more organic with this line going in and creating this beautiful, nice line. We can have this sharp corner up here because it feels more natural to have a, a down curve going down like this into the front bumper. And then this line is also very organic, going up like a wave into this area and connecting to the corner up there. The headlights still look nice. We still have, I do believe these are the exact same outline that we have in the 2020 model. But if you refresh the key graphics in the front end, I've said this so many times before, there are so many cars that if you were to just update the headlight to full LED and modern looking headlight and taillights, you can still have a car in production for a very long time, and this is a good example of that. We do have new fog lights down here. You can see that we have some lights indicator or daytime run lights right there. We have, I do believe this is the fog light, and a much more aggressive wing all the way down here with the blacked out front lip looking very nice. I do like this front end. The only thing, as I said, would be to just create a radius up here, and that would solve every problem I have with this new Model S. I think it's still a beautiful looking design with a very nice, almost timeless design flows and graphics that we have, specifically the proportions. And here you can see the old plaid. These are the old plaid wheels. Definitely prefer these plaid wheels to the new ones, even though the new ones are not bad. But I think these look more sporty, and they don't also they don't cover up the entire brake disc. And I want to see the brake disc behind the design of the spokes itself. Now the proportions here look very clean, super nice line flow. Look at this line going into the bumper back here. We have a muscle over the rear axle. We have another line down here, and then we have this line going over the front hood with some clean proportions. And this is one of the first mass-produced EVs, and thankfully Tesla did not go the route of just extending the A-pillar all the way to this point and have it melt into the hood, something like this, to create this bubble design. Instead, they actually created a beautiful looking design that still stands the test of time until 2025 today, because this is the 2025 model year right here. And of course, the bodywork is not going to change because that would cost way too much money. Still have the same line flow, beautiful line flow here, and same proportions, of course, as we had in the 2012 model year. Now, looking at the rear end, this is where it becomes a little tricky for me, because you can see we have a brand new bumper, and in this case, I 100% prefer the old one, because I don't understand why they added this extremely sharp cutout in the bumper in an otherwise very clean looking surface. Look at how clean this looks. And what this also does now, it just breaks up this line flow that I was such a huge fan of, having this line going into the side. You can see how it connects to the side line right here in the lower section. This now just crashes right into this corner. That is not something we used to have in the previous design. This had a nice flow, just continuing with this line all the way through the rear axle into the door panel without this sharp corner going down like that, like we have right here. It also looks like we might have a new diffuser. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it is the exact same diffuser in the lower section. But the biggest change happened a couple of years ago when Tesla introduced these taillights. I mean, they had to refresh the taillight design. I said it for so long when they came out with the Model 3, the Model Y, which had some proper LEDs in the taillights. The old LEDs of Tesla, they had these dots inside of the taillights themselves, which made it look very, very dated, and it just did not look good, and it didn't look like it actually had a connection to the rest of the lineup. But these new taillights right here, you can see that they are a little bit of change from the old ones, where we have this lower section sticking down all the way to this baseline of the taillight itself. You can see these dots here as well, but this is still a refreshed taillight. This is not the original from 2012. But now they look a lot more nimble and a lot more sharp by having this not going all the way down to the base of the taillight unit itself. Instead, it goes almost to the halfway point of the taillight, creating a very sharp looking design for the taillight design of the 2026 model year. Now, look at this muzzle here, how beautiful this is, and the line flow overall of the Model S. I'm still a huge fan of this design. I think it's one of the best looking EVs, even today, after this many years. It's still one of the best looking EVs on the market today. Now, looking at the interior, not a lot of changes from the facelift right here, but you can see that we now have some LEDs inside of the door panel right here, going across the dash into the other door. We have some carbon fiber here as well, big screen, and thankfully we still have the gauge cluster sitting actually underneath a cap, which is beautiful to see from Tesla. This yoke wheel, not sure, would you pay $1,000 to get the yoke, or would you just stick with a regular steering wheel? As I said, for me, I would 100% just stick with a regular steering wheel. I might test drive one of these before I made my decision, but I don't know. I feel like regular steering wheel is totally fine for me to have. Really not a lot of changes. We still have new daytime run lights in the lower section, similar to what we have on the Model S, but these integrations, I think, look more beautiful than what we had on the Model S. And you can see the old one right here, very similar to what we have in the refresh, even though this line right here is the one that changed, and also the positioning of the daytime run light in the lower section. We also have a new intake right here with a brand new camera situated somewhere in this area, something we did not have in the pre-facelift. Again, if you look at the wheels here, I'm not sure which one I prefer. I was always a fan of these turbine wheels. They just feel like they suit the overall design perfectly, in my opinion. These new ones look way more aggressive, 22-inch wheels, but they still look super sporty now for the Model X, looking super clean, and definitely something that I would go with the 22s, even though it is a $5,500 option. Very expensive option, but I do think it's worth it because, as I said, the proportions of the Model X feel a little too bulky for me, because we have this one single curvature that never really goes back up in the rear end. And that is something I want to see. Even if we have an EV and a hatchback like this, I want to see some sort of upswing in the rear end to create a nice end point for the rear end. That is not something we have in the Model X, so I definitely need to have the big wheels to fill out this otherwise very tall looking proportions that we have for the Model X in general. Now, looking at the rear end, I really don't see any updates for the rear end of the Model X. It looks to be the exact same design that we have on the new one. I can't tell if it's there anything new here. Even the lower section with the diffuser looks to be exactly the same, and the taillights, same design as we had previously as well. We do have this now being blacked out, and I'm sure if it's black on this one, it looks to be black there as well. And we don't have the Tesla logo sitting up there. That is now gone, which is interesting to see. I would like to see Tesla spelled out here in the rear end, similar to what we have on the new Model 3 and the Model Y, I do believe. But the wheel design looked great when they're rolling like this, because here you can still see the brake disc behind the wheel design itself, and that is, as I said, exactly what I wanted to see. Now, looking at the interior, very clean looking interior for both the old one and the new one. But you can see that we don't have the LEDs. Maybe we do have the ambient lighting in this area. It looks like we have an ambient lighting strip right here, but it does not, I don't believe, I could be wrong, but it doesn't look like it continues into the door. Well, that is something that we have now. I also like the red graphics that we have here and the carbon fiber as well. A big, massive screen, as always, when it comes to Tesla in the dash, and we have the gauge cluster right here as well, underneath a cap. So beautiful looking refresh of the Tesla, and this is, as I said, a great example for when you have a great design to start with, and that is something that Tesla really wanted to nail down. Tesla knew from the beginning that if we're gonna have an EV that's mass produced like this, we need to make it a timeless, classy design, and I think that's exactly what they did with the Model S. And the most important thing here is going to be the proportions when you make a design like this. Because if you have the proportions right, all you got to do is, as we talked about, just update the key graphics. The bumper, easy to update that. The headlights, taillights, also easy to update that. The wheel design, same there. But you can't really mess with the proportions. So that is the reason why I think the Tesla Model S is still one of the best looking EVs on the market today. And we definitely need to see more of those out on the road. So these are going to be interesting to see if they're actually going to sell more of these. Because 5% of the sales is making up of Tesla Model S and Model X. is not something that I knew. I thought they were selling more of these. So it's going to be interesting to see if this is actually going to boost the sales of specifically these two models.